One of the audio processing tools that mastering engineers will use to master a stereo track is mid-side processing. Now, what is mid-side processing? I will try to explain in about one sentence. Mid-side basically means information which is in the middle of the stereo field and the side of the stereo field, or the mono in the center and the stereo on the side. If you want to learn more about what mid-side processing is, I'm sure you can Google and find out and read all about it. In Studio One Professional Edition, this is quite easy to do, but this option is not available in the Artist Edition. And in this video, I'm going to show you how we can apply the same principle in the Artist version. Only because I like challenges. The way to achieve this in the Professional Edition is the channel editor. And if you don't know the channel editor, let's open up the help file and find out what the channel editor is. And here's the information about the channel editor. It basically allows you to split the signal and process the mid and the side information, audio information, separately. And there are examples of how to actually do this, and there are quite a few videos out there showing you how to actually process mid-side processing. So let me show you how to do this in Artist Edition. When we want to apply mastering processing for our song, it's a great idea to export our mixdown into single stereo wave file. Now this is quite easy again in the Professional Edition because you have the project mastering module. In Artist Edition, we don't have this. But let me show you how I do it in the Artist Edition. Once I have a good balance over the mix, at the moment I'm just doing a demo, so I haven't even balanced anything. I don't have any plugins applied anywhere, nothing on, other than few things that I demonstrated earlier in my earlier videos. So I'm going to assume I'm quite happy with the mixdown. And what I'm going to do is create a stereo track and then import this stereo track back into the project. That way I'm working with the same project file with the stems as well as the stereo master track. Now to do that, we need to export into a WAV file. If you haven't done so already, open up your marker track and make sure your start and end markers are set at the beginning and the end of your project that you want to export. Then we go into Song, Export Mixdown. Here, make sure we select a WAV file, 16-bit or even 24-bit, 44.1. That's our project at the moment, so I'm going to leave it at 44.1. There's no point of putting it to 48 or any other sampling rate. 44, but it's good. 44.1 is good, but it's a good idea to actually have 24-bit. And the next thing we want to select is between the start and end marker. We don't need that. We just have to import to a track. And we just select here, Master Mixdown 1. So let it process. So what that process did is actually mix down out all of our tracks into one stereo track. Now we can either mute all the others or we can actually solo this master track. So that's our final mix down of the track.
Alright, as I pick up the pieces that are left of me, I'm alright.
Right, now it's ready to be mastered. To make things visually easier to work with, I'm just going to unmute that, select all my other tracks, holding Shift and clicking. Now all the tracks selected, and I'm just going to mute them. So that way I don't have to solo this master track that we just imported. And then it's going to go right here, the track list, and I'm just going to turn them all off except the last one. So now I can only see my sort of mixed down track, easier to work with. But if I ever need to access and remix, because during my mastering processing, I realized that my vocals are too loud, my bass is too loud, or guitars are not loud enough, I can still come back here, enable that, and do the same process of master mixdown as I shown you earlier. Now that we have our stereo mixdown track, we can do our master processing in this example how to use mid-side processing. So let's open our mixer. Just quick notes. In most cases, when you are doing a mixdown, all your outputs from each of your channel or your buses will go to the main, and that's the main there. And I personally don't put any inserts in the main. That way I will have full control later on during the mastering, giving me enough headroom. The only thing I actually have is a limiter post the fader. And here I put minus 1 dB to give enough sort of headroom in there just in case there's something that's peaking over there so my master mixdown doesn't clip. But now I can actually increase this to probably about minus 0.3 dB. Of course, spectrometer is really great as well. It will tell you how your frequency range is going, how balanced your mix is. We'll have a look later on. So how do we do mid-side? It's quite tricky because what we are trying to do is split the stereo signal, the mono and the side signal into two separate processing and then combining it back again. To be able to do this, I create 4 buses. I call the first one pre-master, the next one mid, and the next one side, and finally post-master. Now the output of the pre-master is assigned to post-master, and then the mid and the side also go to post-master. In here, I add a mix tool. This is available in the artist version, not in the prime edition. So that's why it only works in artist edition. And here the only thing I have said is MS transform. This will convert the left and the right, the output, as the mid and the side. The left being the mid and the right being the side information. And then I'm using sends. I'm using one send that's actually going to the mid and the other one to the side, to these buses. Now, one important thing is to make sure that we are set as pre-fader for both of them. And the mid is sent all the way to the left and the side panning all the way to the right. So that we send whatever is on the left-hand side, which is the mid information from the mix tool, to the left, this one here, and the side information, we're sending it to the right, which is to this one. Now, after watching this, you might go, what? Just bear with me. It will all make sense when I go to the next step. Just briefly again, the mix tool is dividing the stereo signal left as the mid information and the right as the side information. And we are using sends to send the left information to the mid bus and the side information to the side bus. So that way, mid information will come here and we can process with an EQ and a compressor and send it out to the post. And the side information we can EQ and compress and then send it to the postmaster. Now, when the both signals from the mid and the side reach the postmaster, the first tool we have here, the first plugin we have here is the mix tool. And in this mix tool, we have the MS transform, and that's the only thing is enabled. So this will convert back the left and the right information, the mid and the side, back into stereo field. Then we can have our fat channel to put some compression and some saturation with the tri-comp and EQ and the limiter, and it goes out to the main over here. Now, to get the information into the pre-master, we have to make sure that our stereo track is not going to the main, but actually going to pre-master. And the other thing we need to do, so that the information coming in is only going to these side, mid and side buses, we turn the fader down. That is important because the only information we want to send is to the mid and the side buses as they are separated and then combined back at the postmaster. That is an important step. That's why we choose the send pre-fader. So let's play the track and see how it actually sounds with the mid side now enabled, because we have the mix tool separating it here, being sent to this bus, and then both combined back to the mix tool and reverting it back to the stereo signal without any further processing. We'll have a look at them in a moment.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order.
Well, that's the track now. That's mixed down with no processing. Let's have a listen when we start playing around with our mid signal and the side signal.
And I'll be fine, cleaning out the
What we're hearing is just the side.
alright as I pick up the pieces that are left
And that's
of
the
me.
mono signal.
I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order.
Now you can actually hear what mid-side processing does. So let's do some mid and side processing. On our mid, I actually added a EQ, and I'm boosting the lower end a little bit, cutting off some of the mids there, and then hypening up tightly bit at the top, and fading down right at the top, so that way, the mid channel doesn't have too much high frequency. That way we can get more stereo separation. And then I'm adding a compressor just to tame some of that energy. So let's have a listen.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order.
Okay, so let's do some of the side processing, which is the stereo signal. Here with the EQ, I'm cutting all of the low end, some of the low mids as well, and then hypening up right at the top to give us nice separation. Because remember, we cut it from the middle, we're giving it to the side, and that will give a wider stereo. Then again, a compressor. This time I'm having a fast attack, because most of the frequencies are fast, transient. We want to take care of that, and a little bit of compression, not too much anyway.
But no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright,
A little bit more balance there.
and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But no, I will always have this too,
Let's turn it
a
off.
little piece of you. I'm alright.
That's without any processing.
I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner.
Okay, so we can go ahead and tweak to our liking the EQ and the compression, or any other effects you actually want to put in there. The next thing, as part of the mastering, is I can do it in my postmaster. Again, as I said, I normally don't put anything on the master bus. That way I've got more control. Here I'm actually adding the LA2A FAT channel. Turn it on. Then my tri-comp, which is the compressor. A little bit of compression and a little bit of saturation to give that a little bit more loudness. And then the EQ, I'm using this to actually balance things out. And I'm using my spectrum meter to make sure that I've got nothing peaking out. And then my limiter. This is where I'm actually giving really push to make it loud. So let's have a listen.
Putting back in order, but no, I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine, cleaning out the corner, putting back in order.
So you can see we've got some dips there or peaks that we can take care of, and you can use this final EQ to balance it out so you got nice and smooth. Of course, still use your ears to make sure that those peaks are not really a problem. So graphically, they may look like a problem, but a little bit of bringing those frequencies down, it will look more balanced. So let's have a listen before and after being with the mastering. So this is before any mid-side processing.
But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me.
Okay, so we are actually having RMS around, minus 24 dB or thereabouts, which is fine. And once we add our mid and side and processing,
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning out the corner, putting back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you. I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright, being away from you, and I'll be fine.
I usually, when I'm mixing and mastering, I tend to like to the RMS sort of moving around between minus 12 and minus 9 dB. Of course, you can use the free online loudness meter, which will tell you how loud your music is, which is loudnesspenalty.com. And I have demonstrated in a previous video. And then you can come in and adjust your limiter as well as all of your other settings to make sure that it's not too compressed and you've got enough headroom for it to be mixed down, converted into MP3 and so on. So that's how you can actually achieve mid-side processing in Studio One Artist Edition. As I mentioned, I like challenges. Challenges makes you more creative, being able to achieve this. Sure, this will take 5 minutes to do in the Pro Edition, but imagine the achievement you've got and the knowledge you've got now how to do things in a different way. When you've got limitations, your creativity will actually flourish. I hope this was helpful. If it was, make sure you give me the thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio, guys.
I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright.